Aloha. This is Lorna Takehara Strand, Chair of Oahu Democrats, with Representative Scot Matayoshi, who's running for the House of Representatives from House District 49. Aloha, Scot.
Aloha, Lorna. Great to see you.
Great to see you. Tell us about where you were born and your childhood, Ohana.
Yeah, well, my family's been here for, I guess now with my kids, 5 generations. Um, I was actually born in Washington, D.C. because my parents had left Hawaii for a couple of years so that my father could go try to get a PhD in Washington, D.C. And my mother was working as a federal prosecutor in D.C. for a number of years. But about 2 weeks after I was born, we moved back to Hawaii because, as everyone knows, it is, and as I personally know now with my 2 kids, it is very difficult to raise kids without grandparents' help. So I spent about the first 2 weeks of my life in DC, got flown back. I was told I was a very good child on the plane. Got back here and grew up with my grandparents for the first, I'd say, 3 or 4 years of my life. As everyone knows in Hawaii, it's very difficult for a young working family to purchase a house, even back then. So I was basically raised by my grandparents for a number of years. Still saw them my mom's side every Sunday for family dinners. My father's parents live maybe 7 or 8 blocks from where we eventually grew up in, and now I live in Kaneohe and represent House District 49.
And tell us about your adult Ohana now. You've got 2.
Yeah, I've got two pandemic babies. So the first one is almost 2 years old. So that's about either in pandemic years, that's either 1 year or 65 years, depending on how you're counting. The other one was just born, so he's about 3 months old, almost 3 months old now. Yeah, I mean, it's strange having kids during the pandemic. It's a very different experience raising them. I'm fortunate to live on the street with a lot of young families, so the kids kind of run around our dead end street. So at least he gets some socialization, but we certainly miss all of the big family parties that I got growing up, and being able to see all my cousins and my aunties and uncles all over the place all the time. Just a very different experience for them. But fingers crossed, we'll be heading back to normal pretty soon, and they'll be able to get vaccinated pretty soon too.
Tell us about someone who's your personal hero who inspires you to move forward every day.
Yeah, I gave this a lot of thought. Normally, my personal hero is Barack Obama. One of the reasons I ran for office was because of him. I was very inspired by him and his candidacy and his presidency. But someone who inspires me to move forward every day, I mean, that would have to be my mom. When she was raising us, along with my dad, she really emphasized public service. That was always a big thing with her, and of course my father's family has been in public service for generations. But getting us out to go volunteer, serving meals to homeless, and volunteering at park cleanups and beach cleanups, things like that. Growing up, I thought that really kind of shaped who I am, and shaped sort of the natural inclination that I had to always try to be looking out for ways to give back and to really spend my life trying to make the community a better place. So that's really what my mother instilled in me.
And what have been defining moments or events that have helped to shape you as a Democrat?
Well, I mean, I certainly grew up a Democrat, as I'm sure many of us did. I think the thing that really got to me, though, it was when I came back from college. I went to college on the mainland, came back and became a public school teacher. So I taught 7th grade science out in Nanakuli. And that was a huge eye opener for me. It was my first experience really seeing that side of the island, and I spent years there as a public school teacher, and seeing the inequities, seeing the difficulties in the classroom. Seeing the students who I grew to really love, and then seeing the hardships that they faced. That really solidified me, I think, as a Democrat, and just knowing the vast inequities in our society, and knowing that we as a government needed to do better to help, especially those less fortunate in our society, to get a leg up and into the middle class.
And what does serving the people mean to you that allows you to believe that you're the right Democrat for the job of representative from District 51 this year? I'm 49.
49. I'm not moving anytime soon.
Sorry.
Well, I've been doing it for a number of years. I mean, this is my 4th year in office. I think I've done a pretty decent job. We've managed to get a lot of the streams cleaned. I put a lot of pressure on that, on the city to do that. And to the city's credit, they cleared out a bunch of our streams, especially in the Keapuka neighborhood that had been causing flooding issues in the past. I've also been fighting for, you name it as far as issues, senior rights. I finally got my bill passed this year to try to end flavored vaping in the state, which disproportionately or really targets our youth and our students. What really annoyed me about that particular issue was, as a public school teacher, thinking about flavored vaping, I saw my students as the targets for these vaping companies, my students that I know and care about getting hooked on nicotine for the rest of their lives. And that just lit a fire in me my first year in office when I heard about this issue and learned more about this issue. And I've been fighting for it ever since, to try to ban flavored vaping products in Hawaii. And we did it this year. There is an exception put in there by the Senate that I do not like, that I would love to have taken out. But I think it is a forward progress in the right direction, and I'm really proud of that. So I mean, all I can do is really promise you that I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Fighting for higher teacher pay, and as a former teacher, I know very well how little we get paid. Fighting for flavored vaping bans, trying to get those helicopters to stop flying over our neighborhoods. I had a really interesting bill that I tried to get passed this last year that would allow individual citizens to sue for noise nuisance violations helicopters, to try to get helicopters to fly higher, or at least avoid flying over and too near our neighborhoods. But because it's federal, we couldn't have the state step in. But as we saw in Texas with that abortion ban, or that attempted abortion ban, private citizens can do things that our state government cannot. So I'm actually use that as, unfortunately, use that methodology as inspiration to try to tackle the helicopter problem here. Just kind of a creative way of trying to do something that our state has failed at for years because of federal preemption.
And if volunteers would like to volunteer for your campaign, how can they contact you?
Yeah, you can get in touch with me on my website. I see it right below my face here, scotmatayoshi.com, or you can email me at scott@scotmatayoshi.com. Just know my name only has one T in it. So if you're sending it to Scott with two T's, it's going to go into the internet void.
Thank you. Aloha.